Back in 2012, Mojang and 4G Studios released the masterpiece that was Minecraft, Xbox 360 edition. With the game came skin packs, tutorial worlds, and tons of YouTubers.
Hello everyone, this is Doublesal, and welcome to the first Minecraft video. Get out of my way! Okay, stop! You're gonna kill me! Yes! Oh!
That's right, folks. We're going back to the basics. My goal is to get 20 classic Xbox achievements. I have to do this over the course of 100 days on one of Minecraft Xbox's most memorable worlds. We're playing Minecraft Xbox 360 edition. You want to play mod packs with friends, but you can't seem to find a good server. And the free ones? With the big mod packs these days, free servers are just too laggy. Luckily for you, there's BISECT hosting. They host my server, and with plenty of affordable options, they can host your server too. And the best part is, they support almost every mod pack. Use code Doublesal at checkout for 25% off your first order. BISECT hosting, a great site for great servers. Well, here we are, and I'm gonna be honest. I was a little nervous to make this video because back then, Minecraft was a completely different animal. Way more slow-paced than what you're used to today. Now I do want to clarify that I am playing on an emulator. I used to have a capture card for the Xbox 360, but that hasn't worked in like 10 years. As for the old tutorial world, well, that was my first experience with Minecraft. You could download the game for free, play for 30 minutes, and then after that you would get kicked out and all of your progress would be deleted. But enough of that, let's get out of here. The Minecraft tutorial village. For many new Minecrafters who had just downloaded the game, this village right here would be the first spot where they'd spend their first night. There wasn't a lot going on in this village, just a few houses, and of course this was way before villagers. On my first day, I spent a little time exploring the village. Now, for the sake of the challenge aspect of this video, I'm not going to be using any of the materials found in the village. There are beds, there are torches, we're going to leave them all there. But the real main attraction was the castle. I hopped into the minecart and made my way to the biggest structure in the tutorial world. The castle was nothing spectacular by today's standards, but I do have fond memories of the place. After struggling to get out of the minecart, I made my way to the castle's lava moat. There I remembered all the fond memories of scooping up the lava with a bucket and using it to burn down the village nearby. To get across, I had to activate this cobblestone generator, which would make a bridge. Now, like I said before, the inside of the castle wasn't anything too fancy, but to a new Minecraft player, this castle set the standard. It had everything, from a really cool basement/boat dock area, and here's a little fun anecdote. When I first played the game and I saw the glowstone, I actually thought it was gold. Back up top, there was what looked like a library or a church, and to this day, I've never been able to figure out what this place was supposed to be. Maybe it's both? I don't know. To be honest, the daylight cycle caught me off guard because, first of all, I was not expecting to spend the whole day just exploring the tutorial world. And second, the transition from day to night, it's a little more extreme. It was a good thing I was safe behind castle walls. I opened up my inventory and wow, that is a crafting interface. At the time, the game was so basic that they actually gave you an achievement just for opening up the inventory. I crafted some tools and helped myself to some of the stone within the castle walls. Now, I did say I wasn't going to take any items, but this doesn't count. I then upgraded my tools, crafted one of each, and set myself up for the next achievement, more tools. I don't want to spend the entire night wandering around because honestly, it was dangerous, I couldn't sprint, and well, there wasn't much to do. I broke some of the wool from the castle tower, and I was going to use it to craft myself a bed. I went back to fetch my crafting table, and that's when I saw my first enemy of the playthrough, a creeper. And I don't want to give away any spoilers, but in this Minecraft version, creepers are absolute menaces. I made a second crafting table inside of the tower, and I thought to myself, hey, this is probably a pretty safe place to lay my head for the night. But I forgot one of the old Minecraft rules. You have to make sure that your bed is in a closed-off area, otherwise monsters are going to spawn while you're sleeping. After dealing with the midnight assassin that was a skeleton, I slept through the night and woke up the next morning, only to find that the creepers were still there guarding my crafting table. That thing was a lost cause. Before I continued, there was one little secret area that I just had to see for nostalgia's sake. Hidden beneath the water was a pit, and if you sunk all the way down to the bottom, and this was terrifying because you used every last bubble of oxygen, at the end of this dark underwater tunnel you would find a chest. And what was inside that chest? Every Minecraft kid's greatest dream, a full set of diamond everything. You guys have no idea how tempted I was to just take the stuff and continue the playthrough like that, but I promised we can't use any of the spawned-in items. I have to get everything myself. I returned to the surface, glimpsed at the castle once more, and then I made my way to shore. It was there where I saw my next achievement opportunity, getting some leather. I was pretty low on health, so it was time to get some food. Luckily, I came across these pigs. And once again, I was reminded that in the old versions, pork chops can't stack. The main goal was to find a place to call home, and seeing as how this world was not infinite, our options were limited. Thankfully, it didn't take long before I found a potential spot, and it was only until I saw the X on the ground, naturally generated by the way, that I knew that this would be the site of our new home. It was getting pretty dark, so I had to act quickly. With these stiff controls, I hastily built a house. The moon began to rise, and I took that as an indicator that the outside was no longer safe. So with what materials I had left, I finished building my house. And I gotta be honest, of all the houses that I've built, this one was by far the worst. I spruced up the house a bit and made a furnace. This unlocked the next achievement, Hot Topic. Iron was smelted. That unlocked the achievement, acquiring hardware. With the shelter in place, the next goal was to make a stable source of food. We needed a farm. Thankfully, infinite water sources were a thing. With a little bone meal, I was able to speedily grow some of my crops. And once I had replanted the seeds, I went to gather some sand to make some windows, and on the way back, I stumbled across my first cave. There was plenty of ore, and plenty of monsters, but when I had enough iron ore, I was able to smelt it all, and make my first set of iron armor. I returned to the house much more well-equipped compared to when I left. The next goal was to beautify my home. I added a roof, redid some of the walls, and my main goal was to create this classic Minecraft cabin feel. I kinda think I accomplished that, but the building was very limited. There were no upside-down stairs, you couldn't place slabs on the upper half of a block. Glass, well, you were stuck with the blocks because panes didn't exist yet. It was all a little difficult to adapt to. Right around the corner was a second village. This tutorial town had a farm. I took the wheat and returned to my humble abode. With another night upon me, I decided to make use of the time by mining underneath the house. That way I wouldn't have to travel far to find more caves. And as I was mining, I stumbled across a dungeon, and inside of the dungeon, a monster spawner. Wow, that's a lot of arrows. The chests had some basic loot, cocoa beans, saddles, and in the others some bread, buckets, and iron. Back at the house, I upgraded our smelting capabilities. I was planning on making a lot of charcoal, so I started a tree farm. We needed all the fuel because there were a ton of blocks that needed to be smelted, more specifically, glass. I needed a lot of glass. Not because I was going to install more windows into the house, no. I risked my life mining the sand because with the glass, I was going to build something I've never built before. With my sand surplus, I made my way back to the house. The sand was smelted, and then I crafted an iron sword to take care of the remnants that were waiting for me outside. One of my goals was to tame this wild land. I wanted to introduce a little civilization to these monsters. To do that, I was going to have to take more of their land. I terraformed the ground and began making a sand outline for the next building. My plan was to make a greenhouse. You know, one of those large glass buildings where they grow plants. This was kind of a cosmetic choice, but it was also necessary because if I wanted to farm at night, I didn't want to have to do it while worrying about creepers sneaking up on me. I was a little nervous about making every block of glass count. There wasn't silk touch, so if I made a mistake, that was a block wasted. Now the big problem was actually making the roof because I wanted it to be rounded. With the help of a dirt outline, I was able to visualize the shape I could go for. The dirt worked so well that I continued to use it to visualize the rest of the building's shape. Once I had gotten exactly what I wanted, I then took the dirt, replaced it with glass, I got some more sand, and while that was smelting in the furnace, it was time to start laying out the rows for our future farm. Irrigation is the future, so I added some water in between each row. After that, I finished what was left of the prep work, and then I went to go check on the glass, and once it was done, it was time to continue building the glass greenhouse. Only this time, we had to take on a more challenging aspect, finishing the roof. It took a couple of days to get it down, but once it was finally complete, I was pretty satisfied with the outcome. The only thing left to do now was to fill up the building with farms. Now I had a couple of ideas. The first one was to make the whole thing just one big wheat farm, but then I realized that there were other plants we were going to need in the future. I added some details to the floor while I brainstormed about how I was going to make this layout work. I'm pretty big about procrastinating. There were some things like cactus and sugarcane that we needed, and I just didn't feel like going out there and finding them, so I continued to put off those plans while adding some more details to the greenhouse. I even went so far as to adding a little garden on the outside. The only problem was that the leaves started disappearing. Now this was something I didn't even know was a thing. The only way to get them to stop disappearing was that you had to make sure there was a log underneath them. I finally went out to get a cactus, and once I brought the cactus home, I put the sand down and made a cactus farm. I then remembered that there was a sugarcane spot near the old village. I don't know if this is entirely true, but there are those who say that sugarcane grows faster on sand. So I swapped out the dirt for sand, and wouldn't you know it, you couldn't even place sugarcane on sand yet. I guess good old dirt was gonna have to do. The farm was set, and the final touches I added were a pair of hanging lights on each side. The next day, I made it official by connecting the greenhouse to my home with the use of a road. Once we had a steady source of food, it was time to return to the mines. Now this proved to be a very fortunate trip, because I finally found my first few diamonds. The only mistake I made was mining a pickaxe with little durability. There were 6 diamond ores right there. When I was about to mine the last block, my pickaxe had 1 durability left and it broke. Now I mined the diamond ore, but I didn't get the diamond. After that, my game started acting real weird. For some reason, the logo from the main menu was appearing in my game. I restarted the emulator and began working on the next project. I was gonna make a foundry. You know, a place where blacksmiths can melt metals, make swords, armors, and, well, you know, anything having to do with furnaces. Now, we did contemplate making this building out of stone, because, you know, fire and molten metals, they don't really mix well with wood, but, stone is expensive. I spent a few days building that, thinking about how I could actually make this building feel like a foundry. There weren't a lot of cosmetic blocks yet. Couldn't add anvils, cauldrons, nothing like that. So once I had finished the structure itself, it was time to get a little creative. Now we had the furnaces, and well, I guess that could be the giveaway of what this place was supposed to be, but that's still a little ambiguous. Off to the side, I added some gold ore to give away that this was a place where you refine metal. Now, what else could we add to make this place feel a little more industrial? Well, I guess a minecart could work, as well as some chests. And in the end, I even added some wood in the corner to look like that was the fuel for the furnaces. It was a simple design, but I think I got the point across. After that, it was back to the mines where I got even more diamonds. Now, in this point in the game, cobblestone was probably the most valuable block I could have. Reason being is because it's one of my favorite building materials. You can do so much with cobblestone. You can even make your village look a little nicer. I used some of the stone that I had to build some walls to make the mountainside look a little more reinforced. I then decided to fill in some of the empty spaces in front of the greenhouse with a pair of beautiful fountains. I was pretty happy when I found out that there were still stone slabs in this version. I completed the fountains, one for each side of the greenhouse, and then after that, I began working on the next achievement, one of the most grueling, tedious achievements there is, the minecart achievement. Now to unlock this one, you have to travel 500 meters or 500 blocks via minecart. That's a lot of rails! But before I started worrying about that, the first thing I wanted to do was build a small train station. A good starting point for the long journey ahead. With the train station complete, it was time to lay down the train tracks, and that's where I encountered my big problem. I was gonna need a lot of iron. I went to the greenhouse to collect my crops. I was gonna need lots of bread for this next mining expedition because the iron, it was gonna take a while to find the amount that I needed. At the end of the first mining expedition, I came back with some iron and a lot of cobblestone, some of which I used to lay down the foundation for the train tracks. Now 500 blocks is pretty far. This rail system was going to stretch from our train station all the way to the spawn point, all the way through the village, through the castle, and in the end, we would end up at the top of the Minecraft sign. I wasn't even halfway through when I ran out of rails. I also ran out of iron, so there was only one thing left for me to do. A controversial move that was all the rage back in the old Minecraft Xbox days. We were going to use the old furnace duplication glitch. You put the ingot in the top slot, you break the furnace halfway with your pickaxe, and then you swap to your hand just before you break the block. If done correctly, the furnace should disappear, then reappear, which then you open up the menu, hold down the item in the ingredient slot, and then the furnace should break. This causes a second ingot to appear. All you have to do is pick it up, hold it down on an empty inventory slot, and there you go. Infinite ingots. Now, I'm not going to abuse this power. I only got enough to finish the achievement. Then after that, I burned the glitched ingots and swore off duplicating. For the next couple of days, I was crafting and laying down railroad tracks. Once the last of the tracks were placed down, it was finally time to test the whole thing. It was time to get our achievements. Feel free to skip to the timestamp at the end because this ride is going to take quite a while. When I was younger, I never attempted to get this achievement because number one, I never really cared for minecarts, and number two, well, you saw how expensive it was. In the end, the only way I got this achievement when I was young was by actually downloading a world dedicated to giving you all the achievements. It was a pretty cheap way of doing things, but if you were a completionist who liked to cut corners, that was the way to go. My only concern about the entire rail system was that I didn't add any protection on the side. Not a single wall, not a single fence. All it took was for me to bump into one sheep or a zombie, and I would go all the way back to where I started. Thankfully on this run, that wasn't the case. The tracks were empty, the minecart was moving, and we were almost there to getting our achievement. And to be honest, as I'm recording this and watching the footage roll by so that I could sync it all together, I did underestimate how long this was gonna take, so yeah. Hope you guys are having a nice day. Here we go. We are probably past the village by now, and we're going through the tunnel, gonna pass through the castle, and hopefully very soon we get to the end, because I am running out of things to say, and you know what, I would cut this, but you guys have to see me do it legit, so yeah, if you haven't already liked this video, be sure to give it a like, and if you're not subscribed, I hope you subscribe. And other than that, we should be getting to the end. I mean, honestly, that had to have been 500 blocks already, right? Oh well, I'm just gonna put the little achievement bubble there. I'm sure we got it. With that tedious achievement finally under our belt, we could finally move on to the next project. It was time to go fishing. And every professional fisherman always knows that he has to have a secret fishing spot. And me being the avid fisherman that I am, I know that I am not an exception to this rule. Now, I didn't have any secret fishing spot, so I was gonna do the next best thing. I was gonna make one. A fishing spot worthy of capturing the best aquatic creatures. To accomplish this, we were gonna have to terraform the earth and get a whole lot of cobblestone. And while we're at it, may as well get some obsidian too. We'll need that later. With all of the cobblestone I had gathered over the course of a couple of days, I started constructing a seawall. This wall would act as the foundation for the biggest structure we were gonna build yet. But bigger also means more expensive. I had to use so much cobblestone, and I spent multiple days just mining it. I honestly think I spent more days getting cobblestone than I did building the thing. With the floor laid out, it was time to build the boat dock. And once that was complete, I wanted to add some minor fortifications just to make sure that we were perfectly safe from the monsters nearby. The worst thing that can happen is having a creeper blow up right behind you while the fish are biting. I built a strong watchtower, and on the inside, a staircase so that you could get to the top. After that, I began construction on a main wall. I wanted to create a courtyard that was simply dedicated to the fishing area. As the walls began to rise, there was some hostile opposition. It seems that the mobs were keen to my plan and wanted to stop it at all costs. But in the end, progress prevailed. The wall was complete, and the tower was constructed. The only thing left for me to do now was to build a second tower on the left side. Not only did it help by making the building symmetrical, but it also would act as a temporary residence. A place for me to lay my head during my fishing trips. I was getting pretty sick of having to go down and gather cobblestone, so I had to cut corners and use a cheaper building material, wood, for both the floor and ceiling. But I had to return to the mines eventually, and with the stone that I gathered, I was able to spruce up the tower a bit, make it look a little nicer. In the end, we ended up with one of the most handsome towers I thought I couldn't build. I inspected the building from the back, and then after that, I wanted to see if it looked just as good from the front, and yes it did. But why not take it a step further? Why not add a third watchtower? So that's exactly what I did. But instead of wasting a bunch of cobblestone from the mines, I decided to build this tower out of the mountain. Now at this point, the tower was purely cosmetic, but hey, if we could have one, why not? Once again, I stepped back to take a look at my beautiful secret fishing spot, when all of a sudden, yeah, creepers are real menaces. I went back to gather my stuff and started a mini project. I wanted to connect the main base with the fishing spot, so I built a little path made out of cobblestone. Once that was complete, it was finally time to do the one thing we set out to do: go fishing. With the fishing rod crafted, I proudly walked to the secret fishing spot. On the dock, I casted my fishing line, waited a couple minutes, and then I finally got a nibble. After that, I went to my little fishing lodge, cooked the fish, and planned the next few steps for us to go to the Nether. I really didn't know what kind of design I was gonna go for, so I started building a wall that was connected to the fishing lodge. Along with that, I built another tower just so we could have easy access to the next floor. With the new wall complete, I was finally able to come up with a design that would be suitable for our Nether portal area. I started by carving a room inside of the wall, and then a staircase up to the surface. I terraformed the land, making it nice and flat. I will admit that this design was entirely improvised. I mean, I had an idea of what I wanted to do, but every once in a while I would stop and make a couple of changes. Now, the main idea was that we were gonna have this round enclosure. At the end opposite of the staircase would be a platform connected by a bridge, and on that platform we would have our Nether portal. To give this place a sense of mystery and ruin, I decided to add these cobblestone columns. In short, I was kinda going for a Stonehenge feel. After that, I built an outer frame for the Nether portal entirely of cobblestone. I wanted to conceal the obsidian behind, that way the whole thing looked like it belonged. The only thing we had to do now was to fill the enclosure with lava. I built the Nether portal itself, ignited the thing, and then after that, I had to start thinking about where I was gonna get lots of lava. And it certainly wasn't gonna be in the Nether, especially when I couldn't sprint. While I brainstormed a couple of spots where I could possibly get the amount I needed, I went into the enclosure and dug it a few blocks deeper. For the amount of lava that I needed to craft a ton of buckets. And the lava source? Straight from the mode of the tutorial castle. All I had to do was fill up my inventory once, and once that was finished, I returned to the main area via minecart. Then I placed the bucket strategically, because honestly, I didn't feel like going all the way back there to refill all the buckets again. This part right here was probably the most dangerous moment in the entire Let's Play. I carefully poured each bucket until the entire enclosure was filled with lava. And yes, it's a little sloppy, but come on, at least the whole area is covered. It looked good, but there were only a couple more details I wanted to fix. So, I swallowed my fears, went into the Nether portal, and began collecting some netherrack. I would line the edges of the enclosure with netherrack and light them on fire. Now that we finally had that finishing touch added, I could say now that the enclosure was finally complete. Although it looked kinda weird sticking out from the mountainside, so I built a little wall to cover it up. We were getting closer and closer to the end, but there was still another important achievement, one that I actually like. Why? Because I was gonna be making one of my favorite desserts, cake. We needed a place to eat it. At this point, we basically had a castle, and every castle needs a dining hall. I attempted to create the perfect dining hall for the perfect cake. The building itself complete, it was time to design the dining hall, and every dining hall obviously needs a dining table. I went to the foundry to see what type of materials that we had, and there was plenty of lapis that we could use. So I swapped out the wood planks in the center of the table for lapis blocks, just to add a little more color. I then built a fireplace which I immediately had to put out because for some reason it was starting fires on the second floor. I guess torches were gonna have to do. After that, it was time for some minor finishing touches like these plants. And of course we can't forget about the chandelier. I then had the idea of making books for bookshelves because just like we can't eat without watching YouTube, well, I'm guessing that the people back in medieval times couldn't eat without reading something. Don't fact check me on that. Last but not least, plates. Pressure plates. The dining hall was finally complete. The only thing missing now was the cake. With the sugarcane and the wheat straight from our greenhouse, as well as some locally harvested eggs, we had every ingredient except the milk. Thankfully, I spotted a beautiful bovine standing on top of a hill. I returned to the dining room only to discover that one of the saplings had matured into a full-grown tree. That's a sign of wealth if I've ever seen one. I crafted the cake, smacked it on the table, and after that, I had to put on my best cake dining attire. It was finally time to dig in, but one cake wasn't enough, so I made a few more. Reason being was because I was expecting a few guests at my dinner table. They weren't due to arrive till later, but it did occur to me that if the guests came, they were going to be under my care, meaning I was responsible for their safety. This meant that I needed to upgrade my defenses. Yes, we had the walls, but we also needed archers. I didn't have any, so the next best thing were automated turrets. We would do this with dispensers, and by crafting them we unlocked the next achievement. And with the flip of a single lever, we could shoot multiple arrows at a time, thus keeping our castle safe. All the arrangements were made, now it was simply time to go find my guests. I searched everywhere for them. Frozen wastelands, overgrown forests, beaches, harsh deserts, they were nowhere to be found. I looked at the map and saw that I had discovered almost 90% of this world already. And get this, My guests, they were there at the starting point the entire time. I handed 5 of them an invitation, unlocking the next achievement, befriending wolves. They sat in the greenhouse waiting for dinner, because cake was going to be the dessert, and you don't have dessert before dinner. It didn't take long before I spotted our main course. Unfortunately, this was a strange recipe. It was also our last achievement. One that I was dreading throughout the entire playthrough, because to get the achievement, you have to put a saddle on a pig and drop it off a ledge so that it takes damage. The only problem is that you can't guide the pig because carrot on a stick doesn't exist yet. Neither does the carrot, so you have to get the pig, push it to a ledge, and hope that the pig will just walk off. Just go. Just move. Go. Okay, you know what? Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this nostalgia trip as much as I enjoyed making it. Before we end the video, I do want to show you that we did find this rare pink sheep, and I guess the spawn rate is super low. So yeah, we didn't drop a pig off a cliff, but we did find a pink sheep, so that's a win-win in my book. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. This has been Doublesal, and I'll see you in the next video.